A lot can change in 2 years. Since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumed office, the world has been on a whirlwind ride. You've got wars that are raging on. You've got politics growing more polarized. And technology, it's rewriting the rules of the game faster than we can keep up. In these uncertain times, predicting the future feels like trying to catch smoke. But we're all asking the same question. What lies ahead? Frankly, I don't have a crystal ball. No one does. So I asked an artificial intelligence, what might the next 2 years look like for the 250 million people who call Nigeria home?
Nigeria's economy is showing flickers of recovery, but numbers alone don't tell the full story. Real progress means real impact. Food on the table, jobs that pay, lives that improve. If the government can push through bold reforms and fix the cracks in the system, growth could finally become more than just a headline. But that's a big if.
Technology is making all the headlines, particularly with artificial intelligence. The Tinubu administration has embraced AI and also cryptocurrencies and made a lot of promises about building digital villages in Nigeria. Joining us for our technology discussion over the last couple of years in Nigeria, Bolu Abiodun, who is a senior reporter with TechPoint, and Ola Oladile, who is the founder of the Money With Club. Thank you both for joining us. Look, cryptocurrency has been in the news a lot. This administration has decided to regulate it. And I want to get your thoughts on that. Bolu, what do you make of the Securities and Exchange Commission wanting to regulate cryptocurrencies in Nigeria?
I think it's a good thing. I think I won't really say what they are doing is changing what they've been doing before. I think they're just making things better, right? It's more of like an evolution of regulation, right, over the years. And honestly, if you ask me, I'll say they are gradually getting things better. They are one of the Nigerian SEC is one of the Securities and Exchange Commissions in the world, or one of the regulators in the world that's actually figuring out crypto and is open to learning more about crypto. They've become more open, they've become more accessible, right? And recently they recently decided that cryptocurrencies will now be viewed as securities, right? And then when you delve deeper into the document they released, you understand that they know that not all cryptocurrencies can be securities. We still have the stable coins. They are gradually piecing everything together, knowing who should deal with what. For stablecoins, for example, they know that, that's more of like a currency, right? CBN should have more oversight on that. We can have more oversight on the ones that are like securities. And then there are also other cryptocurrencies that are not necessarily securities, but they are acts as like an utility token, governance tokens, and they're understanding these things. And I think we should give them some credit. Actually.
Okay, look, Ola, people come to you for financial advice. That's what your company is all about. So I don't know whether you recommend crypto or what your thoughts are, but I guess from the angle of how you see the government embracing it, and then I'm nervous about crypto because of the volatility. So what are your thoughts?
So I think it's positive in every way. The reason I say that fundamentally is that when you ban outrightly, you create a shadow system that you cannot control, such that once you start bringing the real players in, it gives room for the regular person on the street to know who to transact with. So from that angle alone, it is very, very good. Now, when you now go into the actual details, the fact is that what happens with regulation is that they bring everybody in, and after a while, they begin to fine-tune, and there's all that engagement over time to fine-tune. But generally, crypto regulation is good. Now, from the part of volatility, the way cryptocurrency is designed generally, especially the currency, the Bitcoin, the ones that are traded, you can't entirely regulate or control the movement of prices. And I want to believe that anybody going into that space should know the risks involved in that. And that is different from the risk of fraud, and all those other things. That's just market risk in itself. So, it's fine.
All right, great. Let me get the artificial intelligence. The Dr. Bosun Tijani, of course, who's the Honorable Minister for the Digital Economy, ICT. He has been, focused on getting more, I guess, GPUs, graphics, processing units into the country. Is Nigeria ready for AI? A lot of people say we don't have lights and we're dealing with food insecurity. What are you doing with AI? What are your thoughts on what the administration's push towards artificial intelligence?
All right. Okay. So the administration has they've said a lot. They've said they're going to do a lot. I think in terms of seeing a lot of what they're doing, I've not really seen that a lot. Some of the things I've seen is, getting funding from, the likes of Google, Microsoft. There was the recent $2 million funding for GPUs in Nigeria. And it makes sense, sounds good, but in the grand scheme of things, right, the unfortunate truth is Nigeria has missed out on, some of the major parts of AI development. And $2 million in GPUs is not just going to cut it. It's a lot of money, right? But I mean,
we need more.
OpenAI just raised $40 billion.
Right.
That's the kind of money that can change things for Nigeria as a whole, a country of 200 million people, right? So you know where AI is right now and where we are, right? In terms of us being ready, I think, yes, we can't solve. We've been dealing with electricity issues for how many years now, right? And if you wait until we have stable power, because we don't have stable power now, but doesn't mean you don't use AI.
Right.
I use AI, right? We need to figure out policies to, regulate. There are a lot of things we need to figure out, and we cannot wait to solve electricity first before we do that. Even with the electricity problems, we still have a few companies, Nigerian companies that, I recently met one, that wants to build AI from scratch, right? And they are doing things like that. So I think the only advantage we have now, right, and I'm going to look at Africa as a whole, right, it is just at the part of the AI as a downstream sector, right, and that's, where the raw materials for creating the GPUs and all those things, that's really where we have any kind of advantage right now. So why don't we look towards that? Also look towards adoption, right? Let adoption work. Look at that downstream sector. How can you have some kind of leverage when it comes to the global AI conversation, right? I think that's where, but when it comes to developing AI, honestly, we've missed that bus, and we just have to look for something else.
Well, what are your thoughts? Also, on the job side, whether jobs will be lost, but what are your thoughts on the push towards AI from this administration?
So I think that the ICT minister is doing his job.
Yeah.
It's not his job to fix power.
Yeah.
So you have to be considerate of him in terms of the kind of solutions that he's bringing out.
Yeah.
And then when I look at countries like the UAE that is saying that they're going to start teaching AI from primary school and like that, right? Then you realize at some point we need to make that jump.
Right.
We can't actually keep waiting for all the cards to align before we start, or else we'll never get there. So I see it as he's doing his job, but I also think that there needs to be some work in terms of finding solutions that have real use cases or exportable use cases, one of them. There must be some kind of value or bankable aspect of it, as against just the idea of we have GPUs, what are we going to use them for? How does it convert into new jobs? How does it convert into things that people can use? When you come from that positioning, then it's more impactful than, okay, we just bought this.
Gotcha. Still on the digital economy ministry, I guess we're focusing a lot on them since they're the ones that are driving a lot of technology in Nigeria. The establishment of digital villages, Bolu and Ola, that will provide, access to, remote access to healthcare and, telecommunications and so on and so forth. I think the most recent one was somewhere in Abuja where they set one up. While I was talking about the use case, what do you make of the establishment of digital villages in Nigeria?
I mean, it sounds good. It sounds futuristic. But I will not hold my breath on that. We already have villages in Nigeria.
Right.
I mean, we want to establish digital schools, healthcare, things like that. But we already have healthcare. What is the current state of healthcare currently? Right. What's the current state of education? Right. Adding that digitally even makes things difficult. So you figure out that even when it was simple, we've not figured it out. Especially in those rural areas. But now adding that digitally, it sounds good, sounds nice, but I don't really think it's going to work out, because it's going to be, that digital layer makes it even more difficult. It makes it harder. I would just say, focus on making what we don't have yet. Let's just have it. If it's the regular healthcare, regular education, for rural areas, let's just have it at first, and then we'll now start talking about, making them digital.
Gotcha. Okay. Ola, what do you?
So I share a slightly different opinion, but I would split healthcare and education. I think I see a better use case for education if you are able to bring it down to the language, local language, because how do you transfer knowledge is by somebody listening to another. But when it comes to healthcare, right, I think that becomes a little complex because I can see the case of you want to consult with a doctor in America because that ideally should be it. So if you don't have the right skills, we can plug you in. But how do you build that ecosystem? How do you manage it? Haven't we recognized that telemedicine isn't entirely working right now? Then you now take it to people that are not educated, that don't already know how to use technology. Like, how do you actually, like, the jump seems quite extreme, right? Such that for education is simple because kids can watch YouTube videos and learn 1 to 10, right? So you can actually get them to read and to write, to do all the sound, phonemes, all those things from TV. So just converting to the language, I think that is easy. But that healthcare, it seems like a long shot. And then there are other things around it, right? How do you make these projects bankable and sustainable? Right, you say you are giving phones, you are giving free data, right? They need to charge those phones, they need to maintain those
electricity.
Phones. Is it just one person?
Right.
You know how, like, that ecosystem? It seems it seems good, but I think it's a really long shot. But the one that I see that really and truly can work is the education part.
There's also, well, I mean, I'm going back on the plan of the government now. Like, I think I can already anticipate what Bolu is going to say. 7,000 digital hospitals, which they want to try and build. And I guess we've talked a lot about data and how hospitals manage their data. So am I wrong, Bolu? What are you going to say about the digital hospitals?
It's I mean, like
7,000
like
of them.
it's a long shot.
Yeah.
Right. It's a long shot. And, you know, when it comes to healthcare, it's, you know, the stakes are higher. It's not that simple, right? So you want to make them digital. What does that even mean,
right,
for a digital hospital? Is it that you now want us to have like remote surgeries, things like that? Even in developed countries, we don't have those yet, right? So yeah, I would just say it's a long shot, right? There's still a lot we haven't figured out yet, you know, with the healthcare system. A lot of records, a lot of things are still manual. They're not yet digital, right? So that movement is going to take a while, right? I mean, there's an opportunity to leapfrog, right, in some areas, but the core areas, the areas that matter, it's going to be difficult and it will take some time.
How much, because we've talked a lot about government initiatives over the last 2 years. How much involvement should the private sector have in pushing Nigeria forward in its technology ambitions, Bolu?
I think the private sector is, I mean, they're the side I can still bank on, right? And, you know, I've always been an advocate for, you know, government make the room, let the private sectors come in and actually do the work, right? But then we have a serious foundational issue, right, which, you know, is now affecting AI, which is part of reasons why we've missed out on a lot, right? Education has been, you know, really bad. You know, for these things, you need really good STEM, you know, STEM foundation. I mean, if you look at OpenAI now, a lot of people that work there are PhD holders, you know, really great with maths, things like that, right? You even have university professors that are starting companies, selling their companies to the likes of Google. So you see that these things there's a serious foundational issue, right? Especially with education, right? And the private sector needs these things. They need these foundations to actually make these things work.